So it turns out the guy that started the website about evaluating women's bodies and rating them against each other might not be good. And it turns out that that same guy who's in control of one of the largest media companies, digital media companies, social media platforms in the world is taking a bit of a turn. So we're going to talk about that today. Excited to see everyone. It's Monday, January 13th. This is Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays. I'm Michael Burns here with producer Henry. So yeah, the main thing we want to get into today is Zuckerberg going mask off, Joker mode, whatever you want to call it, becoming a latent life alpha or something like that. We'll read some stuff to talk about this, but it's not like any of us thought Mark Zuckerberg was good, but he's kind of played into the Silicon Valley tech-focused liberal good guy for a while, and now it's over. I think with the encroaching Trump administration, that starts a week from today. Happy early inauguration day to all who celebrate. Um, you know, with that coming, it seems like Zuckerberg is amongst a lot of other Silicon Valley and Wall Street bigwigs who are getting on the Mar-a-Lago Express. Do you think they have a beer there called Mar-a-Lago? Has anyone been to Mar-a-Lago? Has anyone been to the bar at Mar-a-Lago? Do they have that drink there? Let us know if they do.
Yeah, that is such a missed opportunity if not.
Yeah, if you work at Mar-a-Lago, let us know, because we want to help you out with that. Um, but let's start today with a piece on this from 404 Media, which is a good independent media operation covering the internet and things of that nature. We recommend you check it out. And this is from January 9th. The article is titled Internally at Meta Right Now, Employees Protest Zuckerberg's Anti-LGBTQ Changes. And the gist here, if you don't know it, guys, is they're changing the rules on Meta where now you can just use a bunch of slurs and hate speech because I guess debate is good. Like we're supposed to debate stuff. So hate speech is good again because we have to use hate speech to debate. That's the gist of it I'm getting. We'll also check out his interview with Rogan later. So, be ready for that. And I will just give one prefatory note here to say, as some of you might be aware, it's been a weird week. Weird is a wild understatement. Here in Los Angeles, we are based in Los Angeles from the windows of the room where I currently am, where we film. There was a view of the fires earlier this week. And yeah, it's been a lot. That's why we didn't stream on Wednesday, because I lost power Wednesday. Luckily, my family and I were not in a direct fire zone. We got some ash, some smoke, some skies that looked like the world was dying. But it's been wild, and I think you guys can maybe understand this if there's an audience that does understand this. I feel like it's been, existentially horrifying. And I don't want to compare the existential horror to the horror of people who have lost their homes and their livelihoods, but it's weird to live through disastrous things and feel like business is normal. We've talked about hyper normalization on this stream before, but it kind of makes me think of that. So if anyone's interested, I'll post the link in the chat right now. I made a little video about the wildfire with some thoughts on it that you can check out if you want. In that video, I posted a link to some resources if anyone wants to donate or something like that. So there you go. Also, can someone remind me, if you remember, what was going to be our theme this year? I feel like we did one stream this year and we talked about our sort of intellectual theme of the year. I know last year we were looking at the relationships between systems and structures. Oh, it's the teleology of things, the end game of things, whatever it might be. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, like stream if you're here. And just a note, if you've never been here before, our vibe is one of open-mindedness, curiosity, and empathy. what that means, and I'll describe empathy for people who don't know what it means. It means if there's people from a marginalized or non-dominant group who tell us that certain language makes them feel like shit, that we believe them. And it means that we, especially those of us who are members of culturally, ethnically, economically dominant groups, that we don't make weird logical arguments about why technically we should be able to say those things. Because if you really feel the need to use language that other people think of as slurs just because you can, I think you got some bigger questions, bub. I think you got some other stuff you got to look into in life, you know? So we're all about in the chat and on our show, um, considering things, being curious, being open-minded, and we're totally down to challenge our own beliefs on stuff. But that's sort of our kind of line in the sand. Someone said open-mindedness and curiosity. How dare Zuck remove censorship? I don't think I need to be curious. And we'll look at this article, and whoever's mad in the chat now, um, I'm excited to see you defend these things. Okay, so this is from the 404 Media article. It says Meta employees are furious with the company's newly announced content moderation that will allow users to say that LGBTQ people have mental illness. Do you think that's good? Like, do people think that's good? That it's cool that you can go on some website and say that if someone's gay, they have a mental illness. It's also worth noting, and I see this in like the sidebar of this article, Meta deleted trans and non-binary messenger themes. So you used to have a thematic for your messenger where you made it trans, non-binary, pride-based, and you can't do that anymore. The changes were
How
Go ahead, Henry.
how important is like Facebook as a service that you need to go on there to post about people being weird or who your preferences on who you think's fucked up? Like, is that a horn you need to be broadcasting on?
Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely has become the social media platform for weird people to get off their really weird, hateful takes, you know? So I don't know how it became that. Um, but yeah, so this is from an employee. It says, I am LGBT and mentally ill. One post by an employee on an internal meta platform called Workplace Reads. Just to let you know, I'll be taking time out to look after my mental health. Zuck announced that the company would be getting back to our roots around free expression to allow more speech and fewer mistakes. We're getting rid of a number of restrictions on topics like immigration, gender identity, and gender that are the subject of frequent political discourse and debate. I mean, first of all, like, why do we get, why are people, and especially why are, cis heterosexual dudes so friggin' obsessed with the gender identity of others? Like, who cares? And I'll be honest, here's what it makes me think. I'm going to say something sloppy right now, so thank God that we don't have content moderation here. Like, every accusation is a confession. That's a broad term, but like, if y'all are that obsessed, and by y'all, I don't mean you all, I mean the royal y'all. But if y'all are that obsessed with people being gay or trans or whatever, maybe as Michael Jackson would say, it's time to look at the man in the mirror. I don't know. It says a review of Meta's official content moderation policy showed that some of the only substantive changes to the policy were made to specifically allow for allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender or sexual orientation. It's long been known that being LGBTQ is not a sign of mental illness, and the false idea that sexuality or gender identification is mental illness has long been used to stigmatize and discriminate against LGBTQ plus people. So think about it this way, guys. If you are a queer person or person that identifies as any of the LGBTQ plus monikers, you have to deal with the fact that historically, people with your very normal and fine gender or sexual identification have been accused of suffering from mental illness, have been told that your very fine, normal, good desires are indicative of something being wrong with you. And this is like some witch hunt shit, guys. This is like back in the day when women were called like hysterics because they had emotions or wanted to leave the house or have the husband take their leash off, you know? Um, it's the same shit that got used to justify the subjugation of non-white people by colonists for many years. So imagine if you're a queer person, a trans person, whatever, living in the year of our dark Lord 2025, and one of the largest social media platforms, one of the largest, digital spaces of communication is now saying that it's totally kosher for people to accuse you at a fundamental level of being mentally ill because you want to love who you want to love, screw who you want to screw, live how you want to live. You know? Yeah, someone said, are we officially in the neo-Victorian era? Um,
Well,
so
that's interesting because when you were bringing up historically earlier, I was going to like, you go far enough back in like what we consider like traditional gender norms, like pre-industrial, 1920s, 30s, especially post World War II with the nuclear family America, some in the 1800s, some people were just roommates.
yeah, um, I'm going over to my aunt's house. My aunt and her roommate, they're just roommates. Um, Anyone ever have an aunt like that? Shouts to you if so. Um, but let's go back to this John for a bit. It says earlier reported that Meta was deleting internal dissent about Zuckerberg's appointment of USC President Dana White to the Meta board of directors. What is this dumb world we're living in, you guys? Where like the domestic abuser who runs the league where the men go in the cage and they fight each other is now on the board of directors of Meta and is hanging out with the president. Another thread on Meta's internal workplace site with several hundred comments reads feedback. It reads sexual orientation, gender is a mental illness. I'd appreciate some more detail on how the decision was made to update the policy, particularly given this does not reflect any mainstream scientific consensus, how the policy reflects our values and perspectives as a company, and whether these are different to the values we've expressed in the past. Who, if any, LGBT groups, internal or external, were consulted as part of this change? A member of the policy team told employees in the thread that our core values have not changed. I don't really know what that means. They said the changes to our hateful conduct policy seek to undo the mission creep that has made our rules too restrictive and too prone to over enforcement. This is just the thing, too, where it's like, what, and I'm curious if someone thinks this and you want to explain it in a non shitbaggy way, I'd love to hear it. I mean that genuinely. At what point does your free expression matter more than someone not getting hate speeched? Or to put it maybe more like gently or subtly, at what point does your individual free expression matter more than language that has historically been used to marginalize and villainize a group of people? You know? Because I think we have this weird obsession with freedom or free speech, and we think we're being smart, but we're not. Because you can't just say free expression is good. Well, why? Because it's good. Well, why? Like, how does that limit your freedom? Like, if someone says to me, like, for example, let's go back to problematic. We'll go to problematic old guy zone right now. For those of you who don't know, for anyone just tuning in to stand up for your Lord and Savior, Mark Zuckerberg, who wouldn't care if you lived or died. But you know, I grew up in an era where when I was like in middle school, people used the F slur. Part of it was because we heard it in music. Ever heard of this guy Eminem? Listen to his first couple albums, kids. And it was a word that we would use, and it often got used to indicate someone being corny or dumb, and you'd call them that word. And at a certain point in my life, it was pointed out to me, you think that you're doing one thing when you and your dumb little friends with your dumb little bleach blonde tips are using this word. But actually, this is a word that's really hurtful and hateful for a whole group of people. They didn't do anything to you, and they're just trying to live their lives. And, I grew up a little shitbag in Florida. I wasn't some highfalutin ivory tower kid. But that was enough for me, most of my friends, to be like, oh, our bad. We're not going to say that word anymore. because we were told by some people that's hurtful to them. It ties into a history that's bad and hurtful and hateful. So we'll just use another word. So we started calling our friends herbs or whatever. You find new words to make fun of your friends with. You can always find new words to make fun of your friends. And in that instance, was our free expression as pre 9/11 adolescents, was our free expression, tamped down on with Gestapo-like logic because we couldn't casually use hate speech anymore? No, I still made fun of my friends. My friends still made fun of me. We still found ways to make each other feel really bad. We still found ways to tap into horrific toxic masculinity that ruined our brains for years, that we're still reckoning with in therapy now. We still found ways to do it, but we stopped using a word. I don't feel like my free expression was taken away from me. And so I'm very curious why this has anything to do with free expression in terms of political debate. I think when we think about free expression in a liberal society, here's what's important. It's important that we debate ideas. It's important that we're able to debate policies. It's important that we're able to debate ethical and aesthetic principles. But there's no importance here. Like, if you, and again, I mean the royal you, I don't mean you in particular, but like, if you have to stop posting about how trans people are mentally ill, what do you lose? What freedom do you lose? You know what I mean? Is your identity really, and again, not you. Let's see. I want to go down. These are other comments that employees had. I find it very hard to understand how explicitly carving out which groups of marginalized people can have what we otherwise classify hate speech directed to them will be beneficial for the community to build on our platforms. The change is unacceptable at all levels. Someone went into this policy not only remove protection, they actually doubled down. When I first joined this company, people were criticizing me for working here all the time. I defended y'all time and time again. The royal y'all, always anchoring that in the end we try to do our best. It doesn't work out sometimes, but this is appealing. I think it's clear that the policy team is not open to any feedback. Yeah, guys, it's not great. It's not great. And I would again say that my POV here, not that anyone cares, but my POV here is that, we should probably not be using these apps anyways. But the point isn't to say that aggressive, content moderation is inherently good. My point isn't to say that free speech is bad. My point is to say that we live in a time where people say and believe some hateful things, and those things should be moderated, fact-checked, and when reasonable, held back. Like, do you think, I mean, I don't know, like, I just don't know where the line is sometimes. Let's see. Hey, what's up, fellow Michael? And what's up, Jasper? Let's see. Talking about censorship with extra word. So, again, I am not currently talking about it. So someone said, it feels so juvenile and patronizing to explain basic empathy. Real simple. If you think anyone benefits from this kindergarten shit. Dapper Cat, I don't know if you're saying that I am being condescending. I'm not trying to be condescending, but I feel like I have to be. What's the word I'm using here? I feel like it feels weird to have to explain empathy, but when people don't understand why some people don't want to be called mentally ill for their identity type, I feel like I have to explain empathy. Super Derp said Wisecrack went full woke. Yes, we went full woke. Woke doesn't mean anything, Super Derp. You couldn't tell me what that word meant. If your life depended on it, you couldn't tell me. Cool. Dapper Cat, good. I'm glad that we talked that out. I knew we could talk about it. Let's check out, this is an article on the Intercept. This one gets into some other great stuff. Some great stuff from Sam Biddle over on the Intercept. Just tuning in, this is a reminder. You are watching Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays. I'm Michael Burns. I'm here with producer Henry. We do this twice a week. We did not do it um, one of the times last week because horrific wildfires broke out in my home city of Los Angeles, California. We're still kind of making sense of all of that, but excited to be here with you all in the meantime. We're talking about changes at Meta. We're talking about Mark Zuckerberg's seeming far right turn. We're talking about what it means for everything else. Oh yeah, sorry, I said something wrong before. Welcome to Wisecrack. I'm Wokel here with Wokery. We're woking about the woke today, and we're woken the woker because you got to woke the Wokingtons because wokers don't get that the Wokingtons need to get woked, and we're trying to get woked so that the wokers can get woked. So that's what we're doing today. This article is on the Intercept. It's called Leaked Meta Rules. Here's things users are free to post. Mexican immigrants are trash. Trans people are immoral. I'm a proud racist. Oh man, people could clip this. Black people are more violent than whites. These are things that you can just post. Again, I'm sure that there are people who would make the argument something like this. Well, people are free to post that, but because it's a democratic digital space, if people post that, then it's the responsibility of other people to downvote those things or to leave comments against them or to argue with them or debate or whatever it might be. This article says Meta is now granting its users new freedom to post a wide array of derogatory remarks about races, nationalities, ethnic groups, sexual orientation, and gender identities, training materials obtained by the Intercept reveal. At Wisecrack, if we start our app called The Wokest, the only group you're going to be able to do hate speech about is Italians. But not Italians, Italian Americans. We will, how like in The Purge, the whole idea is we take all of that pent up human aggression and rage and funnel it into one day to get it out? That's what we're going to be doing on our app. Taking all of the hatred and focusing it just on Italian Americans. That was, to be clear, that was Henry's idea.
I said Italian Batman, but same thing.
Yeah. I like that very much. Let's see. Logan resents that people think that only gay people are freaks. Straight people can be freaks too. Yeah, why can't everyone be freaks? I like to thank I'm loving the chat today. I like to thank the entire collective left for providing the right with content. Your cringy reactions is the entire reason Orange Man was worth trolling for. Cool, dude. I don't know, man. That's cool that you think that. But like, if you're just hanging out in your basement being mean to people online because you think it's fun and makes you feel good, I really think that you could find a better thing to do with your life, Like no one who's, I'll say it, I'm going to say it, no one who's doing that, no one who's like in chats, like trolling people and stuff like that about Orange Man and like how the left is cringe, like you're not like cool. You know what I mean? You're not in the world. You're not probably not, and this is sad, but you're probably not like hanging out with like friends, participating in communities, being around people that are different than you. And that just makes me sad. I don't think that means you're a bad person. I think it means that maybe some things happen that left you feeling a little bit alienated and on your own. And then you're funneling that loneliness or alienation into a resentment towards others. But like, here's the thing. Heaven's probably not real. We don't know for sure. Okay? We don't know for sure. Heaven might be real. But let's get to 666 so we can talk about this more. But heaven's probably not real. And if heaven's probably not real, this is it, right? You get this life. And when you're on your deathbed, or do you want to look back and be like, I spent 100 hours trolling woke libs online to defend a billionaire president who does not give eight shits about me, doesn't give a half of a shit about you, or are there better ways to do things? Are there ways you could live your life? And I want to take this challenge upon myself as well. But, are there ways we could live our lives? We're on our deathbeds. We're like, hey, I did this shit. I'm about to die. My wife's about to pull the plug. I've told her not to, but she's doing it anyways, and that's fine. Yeah, and that's maybe my challenge for anyone who's out here. Someone said, see, you bring up an issue and it gets ignored if you're not a minority. Like what happened? Hey, guys, listen. 66666666666666666.
We're
Yes,
back
we
down
did
to
it.
657. I'm seeing though.
Oh, I hate this chat. So someone said you bring up an issue and it gets ignored if you're not a minority. Like what just happened now? What's an issue that got brought up that I ignored because you're not a minority? And how do I know who is? Everyone post their race in the chat. I'm just kidding. Do not do that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Long and Pork said, I used to be that edgy loser that spent my evenings being mean to people. Still have that dog in me, but prefer spending my nights with people I love or the book. Yeah, I used to be so mean online. And like, oh my God, I trolled someone really hard in my early 20s. Yeah, like I get it. Like I totally get it. Someone said I met a guy who said there are no gay people before the 1980s. None. None at all. It was invented by the FBI in 1983. Let's see. Someone said I went woke once, then they kicked me out. The sign outside said straight people are allowed in. The people inside say we don't want you in our spaces. That really happened. I mean, I would just say this, like, if you've I'm gonna take that like very seriously. If you've been in an instance where there is a space you were participating in and people were like, we don't want you here because you're straight, that's like annoying. I get it. But here's the difference, right? You're allowed everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? So let's say some queer people or trans people or whatever have a space, an organization, a group, and then I try to go to it, and they're like, nope. Maybe I'm annoyed. Maybe I want to be there because they seem cool and they're talking about stuff I'm interested in. But when I leave that door, I'm basically welcome anywhere else. And maybe for some of the people in that community, they feel like when they leave that door, they are not welcome like anywhere. So they create a space for them. I'm not saying it's ideal. I get how, especially if you're like a college student, let's say, and there's a campus group. And I think let's be honest too, college students can be a little bit overzealous, you know? I've been an overzealous college student. I get that there's well-intentioned people that probably go way too hard because when people sort of get radicalized in either way, they build all these walls and they're unable to think about middle grounds. I get it. And it might feel bad if you're 19 years old and you go to some campus club and they're like, you're straight, get out of here. And people do shit like that. You know, it's not conspiratorial. They do. I might feel bad. I totally get it. But it's probably not the end of the world, is all I would say. That's all I would say. Um, uh, um, and again, I just think that like doing that. Well, let's get back to it. Again, this is Wisecrack. Case of the Mondays. I got to do this ad read thing in a second, but I keep
Super
trying
chat.
to be like, oh, let's check it out. Dog for Leonard's cat. I spent $5 Hail Satan from a black dude. Also support the channel. Hail Satan. Thank you, a dog formerly known as a cat. And listen, we would take your $5. We would let you Hail Satan, even if you're black, if you're white, you're brown, whatever. Everyone's allowed to do it here, okay? Everyone's allowed to do it. If it gets 777, I pray. Okay, so let's take a breath.
Do you still do the? Are you still holding to the 888 secret when you and Lux were running the show? Because I really liked that one.
Okay, yeah. Let's decide. By the way, guys, we need to make it. We haven't had like a State of the Union yet for 2025 streaming because a lot's been happening. So let's all decide collectively. So 666, our standard stuff. 777, we pray. 888, we tell a secret. 999 is hard because like I don't know what we do right before.
Well, at 1,000 it's dome, so I think we can
skip 999.
That one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if people want to, talk about that some more. And we do support all religions here. We do support them. I have another hot take, by the way. Sorry, I'm just like really, I have an abundance of takes. I'll just share this again if I want. I have some takes about the wildfires. I'll post that link real quick. A take I'm going to share right now is I think if you're one of these people who's really into like spiritualism and you follow a lot of accounts that are about like how breath work helps you transcend and how there's these spiritual energies and like you're reading these like kind of kooky books, I literally think you should just become a Christian or Jewish or Muslim. Just be religious at that point because at least I'm thinking about Walter from The Big Lebowski, right? And, yes. So in The Big Lebowski, there's a scene, you guys should probably know this, where the dude's talking about, they're talking about nihilism, and Walter says, nihilism, say what you will about, is he talking about Stalin or is it Lenin?
Say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos.
Yes, at least it's an ethos. Listen, say what you will about monotheism, but at least it's a coherent ethos. If you're going to do all the religious stuff anyways, just have a coherent ethos with a grounded history and places of collective practice that's been around long enough to work through some issues and figure some stuff out. Okay. I went down a rabbit hole of reading, I guess, some really popular spiritual influencer who wrote about like climate change isn't real on the internet, and it just broke my goddamn brain. Okay. Local PBA kicked me out for gay because, well, what's PBA? Bowling? I don't know what PBA is. Um, so there you go. So let's check out, and please like the stream if you're here. Okay, so this is examples from permissible speech on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, I don't even want to. Okay, so let's just make sure we show on screen. There's 3 examples. The first one is
Yeah, you
immigrants
are reading
are
from an article.
like.
The text is on
I'm
screen and
reading from an
highlighted.
article. This one is immigrants are grubby, filthy pieces of meat. This one says gays are freaks. This one says, look at that beneath photo of 17-year-old girl. I don't want to say this stuff in an earnest voice. Again, like, I just don't think that's like, if I had a job someplace and they gave me my manual and they were like, here's stuff people can say, I would be like, I do not want to work here, sir. The changes are part of a broader policy shift that includes the suspension of the company's fact-checking program. I don't know, like, fact-checking is good. And here's the thing, too. If places like Facebook, Meta, X, Twitter, whatever, if they're going to try to undermine and replace the structures of modern journalism, fact-checking, you got to fact-check then. If you want to be the news source, if you want to be where people go, then you got to fact-check. You got to do it. While Kaplan and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg have couched the changes as a way to allow users to engage more freely in ideological dissent and political debate, the previously underreported policy materials reviewed by The Intercept illustrate the extent to which purely insulting and dehumanizing rhetoric is now accepted. I think dehumanizing is a really good word here. It's not good to dehumanize, but like language that undermines the validity and the humanity of one's existence, I just feel like isn't good. It's not cool. Like I sometimes struggle with this, but if I'm talking about like trollish chuds, I still think if you're a trollish chud, you have a fundamental humanity that's valuable and good. I think it's incidental that you're a trollish chud. I think it's real and natural that you're a human with so much potential, and I think your trollish chudness could be undone. You know what I mean? I don't think that's an essential feature of who you are. I think that speech then that implies that some of these hateful categorizations are essential to your humanity, that's bad unless you're Italian. Super chat. Is James Gunn making that one? 999 Michael gets into Warhammer more than one live stream segment and talks about it. It's so philosophically interesting. Would be to immediately lose. Okay, Chance Anderson. If we get to 999 soon, we'll do a Warhammer sesh. Also, what we were going to talk about Wednesday before the fires made the stream go bye-bye was David Foster Wallace. Let us know if you still want that. Also, I need to write her back. Kat was going to do pizza stream today, but Kat was unable to do pizza stream today.
I thought that was Wednesday.
My fucking bad. I did a bad job. Yeah, it was going to be Wednesday, but now it's not going to happen. I think we're going to reschedule though. So we'll get Kat back on for pizza stream. Yeah, let's see. So this is, and here, let's give credit where credit's due. Under the subheading, Meta's public community standards page still says that even under the new relaxed rule, the company still protects refugees, migrants, immigrants, and asylum seekers from those severe attacks, and prohibits direct attacks against people on the basis of race, ethnicity, national organ, disability, religious affiliation, caste, sexual orientation, sex, gender identity, and serious disease. But the instructive examples provided in the internal materials show a wide variety of comments denigrating people based on those traits are marked allow. I mean, it's sort of like how on X, like, you're just like allowed to use the N-word. I don't know. I don't like that. Yeah, there's a lot of really messed up examples in this article. Yeah. So, oh man. We won't go through all of them because the more that I say, the more chances there are for you guys to get me. Yeah. You do some highlighting, okay? You're on highlight duty.
Chat, check out the text.
Yeah. And while you guys highlight, this transition's gonna be really good. You get ready for a professional work right here, guys. It's gonna blow your mind. I do want to tell you that this stream has a sponsor today. We have some friends helping us make this one. It's our friends over at Wildgrain. Now I've talked about this in the main channel before. Wildgrain is a bake from frozen subscription box, and they send you artisanal breads, pastries, and pastas. You can customize the box. If you're gluten free, good to go. That's an identity type I respect. Plant-based, let's go. Vegan, I respect that. And they take all the hassle out of stuff. Baking's really hard. They send you this stuff. It's frozen. You put it in the oven for 25 minutes. You have baked goods. We used some of this around the holidays because they sent us some boxes. It was very nice of them. I really liked it because I like having baked goods around the holidays. I love coffee. We'll get into coffee in a little bit. And to be able to make a fresh pastry, like a croissant, especially, or a croissant, depending on where you're from, is awesome. So I really enjoyed that over the holidays, putting fresh croissants in, having that with coffee. But basically, you can get all of this sent to your house. Check out Wildgrain. You get 30% off, $30 off if you're a Wisecrack listener. And you get free croissants in every box. Again, I like croissant. You got to go to wildgrain.com/wisecrack. There's a link in the description. And when you go to wildgrain.com/wisecrack or use promo code Wisecrack, you're getting $30 off. So check it out if you like bread. I like bread. Jesus Christ said he was the bread of life. They don't get communion wafers though. So I'm just letting you know there are no communion wafers available. Okay. So Henry, highlighted some stuff, so I didn't have to say it. You guys can read more about this. Let's check out. Henry, are you good? Do you want to take the lead on DJing the Rogan clips?
Sure. Give me just a second to share the Intercept article with the chat. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
can get the Zuckerberg Rogan interview in a moment.
Oh, I'll cook in the meantime. Don't even worry. Reminder as well, guys, we have an email address. It's wisecracklive666@gmail.com. You can email us at any time. You can email us 24 hours a day. It doesn't mean we're going to read it right away, but you can email us 24 hours a day. We heard from our friend Cynthia. Cynthia, you got some yes, please. I hope you enjoyed it. Got a couple long emails. I'm not gonna read them right now. Got some good video recommendations, which we always appreciate. Got some offers to help us out with some stuff last week, which I really appreciated as well. I had someone reach out to us to say that they wanted to thank us for engaging with theology and religiosity. So I really appreciate that. I have fun talking about that stuff. I made a video that did really well on my little personal fun channel about theology that people liked a lot. And then everything else I make, no one watches. So it's like, God, I guess I got to do that. John Walter, I don't really have a stance on the Gnostic view of Jesus. My gut reaction is I'm not offended by it. That I think there's some sense there. I kind of have a more humanist and materialist reading of these things. So there you go. And just a reminder as well, we definitely want your thoughts on what you want us to cover on the stream this year. So if you're on our Discord server, you can always suggest stuff. We do read that, so check that out when you get a chance and let us know. You can email us at wisecracklive666. But we want to try some new stuff this year. We want to do stuff that you guys will like.
If you want to hop into the interview, the key
I'm
thing
there.
I was doing, you go ahead and hop on the hour 29 mark about.
Okay, let's see. I'll press play. These are so long.
Podcast, check it out.
The joke.
Yeah, what's the total
I do
runtime
think
on that?
It's like 3 hours. Or wait, it's total. It's like 2.5. Oh no, it's 3 hours. 250. Wow. Shouts to Joe Rogan. God, I'm looking on the bottom of my screen, and it's like, oh, Mel Gibson, Donald Trump, Theo Vaughn, just a who's who of who's. And what I'm about to say now, but as we get into the Zuckerberg thing, this is not substantial. This is not philosophically mature, what I'm about to say. Okay? So just get ready for this. Why does he dress like this now? What is this new vibe? He has really shiny skin and he wears oversized black tees and a necklace. What are you doing? Like, are you an upper class Miami kid who's trying to start a nightclub with money you got from your uncle that invests in the Israeli military trade? Like, is that what you are now? Like, are you a guy who's starting like a TikTok exclusive platform doing interviews with MMA fighters? Is that your is that your thing now? You know, are you someone who started a rap production company on your MacBook in the side room of your stepdad's condo? Like, you're a billionaire. Like, what are you doing? You can't be in your mid 40s and rebrand as like chain over the black tea guy. What are we doing? You know, what is, and he gets into stuff in this. We'll see what we watch about like masculinity. Another thing he said as well, if you guys think this is cool, let me take you out for a coffee and talk to you. That like meta and the internet has gotten too feminine and not masculine enough. Why are we so obsessed with this stuff? You know, I have a toxic masculine mind. I get it, but why are we so obsessed? Let's just watch some of this and see what happens.
And I just think like having, you know, I grew up, I have 3 sisters, no brothers. I have 3 daughters, no sons. So I'm like,
Oh, that sucks. That this guy's your dad. If you're you have a daughter, that sucks.
surrounded by girls and women like my whole life. And it's like, so I think, I don't know. There's something, the kind of masculine energy I think is good. And
Yeah.
obviously, you know, society has plenty of that, but
You're just a little nerd who started a little website to talk about which girls were hot, and now you're trying to like philosophize why masculine energy is inherently good. And listen, I think it's totally cool. Like, for example, producer Henry, we love Henry. He lifts, you know, he's jacked. He has gains in the gym. That's a traditionally masculine thing. That's totally cool and good. I think boxing is cool. That's a fun thing, you know?
Yeah,
I love-
sports are great.
Yeah, like, you know, I know that you guys might think I'm just some wokerston, but like, I like to drink American Pilsners while watching football. Like, I get it. It's fine. Dude stuff is cool. But turning it into some like life-orienting philosophy is so silly. And creating these weird divides is also silly, you know? Because then it creates let's see what he says.
but I think culture was really like trying to get away from it. And
Why should why are
Yeah,
It's
a
like
lot
we're-
of a lot of
it's
this
like you don't go ahead, Henry.
Sorry, a lot of this just strikes me as like, oh, he got a hobby and he made some friends, and like he's like, oh, that's missing from like his projection of the world, which is just like the corporate world because he's so thoroughly immersed in it. So he just it's like man finds friends for the first time, thinks he solves everyone else's problems.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said divorce incoming. Jonathan said that. Very funny. I mean, the way he's talking about companies reminds me, it's like when people are like, when little kids are like, all doggies are boys and all cats are girls. He's like, corporations are all boys. Hospitals and schools are girls. Buses are old men. Like, why does everything have to be a gender? Like, why does work have to be a gender? Why does the
Yeah, if
Mm.
anything, to me, it's an argument to like, you know, give people the free time and stability to go participate in local rec league sports and have fun and socialize and get, you know, rejuvenated and away from the office.
Yeah. And it is a sort of like phallocentric logic in so much as, you know, like the phallus is a signifier in some psychoanalytic shit. Let's not go wholly down there. But the basic idea is that like the sort of masculine phallus-based logic is the sort of logic of penetration, of domination, for lack of a better term, of like fucking stuff. And he basically wants to say like corporations fuck. You know, and that's like the underlying thing. And think about like America in the past 15 years. What have we decided? Corporations are people, and now we want to be like, corporations fuck, but only ladies. It's like, what are we doing?
I do think that there's just something, it's like, I don't know, all these forms of energy are good.
Also, he just says, okay, if we're going to be stereotypical here, this guy's the least masculine energy ever. He's like, I don't know. I just think that masculinity is cool and important. And I was thinking about it as I was coding on my computer chair. Like, if you're gonna just be a Chad, be a Chad. But it's okay, dude. You just be a nerd billionaire. That's awesome. That's awesome. We all wish we could be nerd billionaires. And then you become a nerd billionaire and you somehow have to like deal with the psychic trauma of getting like bullied when you were 12. And now in your 40s, you got to become a Chad? Come on, dude.
And I think having a culture that like celebrates the aggression a bit more has
Yeah, we don't celebrate aggression in the country. We just like do war. The main thing we're good at is war. We love war. We do more war. When we do war and we kill the kids at the war, we're like, we killed the kids at the war, but it's okay because the kids are the kids we don't like.
its own merits that are really positive. And that has been a kind of a positive experience for me. Just like having a thing that I can just like do with my guy friends and like, and it's just like, we're just like beat each other a bit.
Just beat each other with the boys.
Yeah, just hang out with the dudes. Like,
I
want everybody to be able to have the opportunity to hang with their bros.
But like, no one tried to take that away from you. You know what I mean? No one.
Yeah, it's just
away from
the
you.
only thing that takes that away from you really is like your job. If you're stuck in a hellish 9 to 5 or a corporate situation, and like, yeah, that's taking away quality hang times. And like,
and again, it's just like, is the argument here that like, at work they made me go to a meeting where they gave me a stale donut and told me that Tony is trans now and I have to call him a different name, and then the gym closed, so we have to do a revolution. Like, it's just like, sure, you had to do some diversity stuff at work. I get it. I've had to do diversity trainings. Some of them are annoying. I had to watch videos where some guy was just like grabbing women's breast, and the video was like, is it bad that he did this? Yes, I'm not an idiot, but like, I get it. Like, loneliness is real. Social isolation is real. All these things are real. It's good to hang out with the fellas or whoever you want to hang out with. But having this be some like large scale political project where we have to say aggression is good.
So much of this just seems like a play to reclaim people, Facebook users that have been dropping off because they feel censored or whatever on the platform.
Yeah. Oh, do we miss 777?
We did.
No. Dear Meta God, we pray that in the coming year that all of the fake, woke, lib, soft, baby energy, we hope that people that listen to Olivia Rodrigo and eat acai bowls and have foam rollers and go to thematic yoga classes and ask for a veggie burger instead of a meat burger. We hope that all of these people are eradicated from the earth and that all you leave are a bunch of jacked up dudes ready to beat each other to death. And you create a new Noah's Ark. And on this ark, it's just fellas being fellas. Everyone has a flat screen in their bunk. The only food is Buffalo Wild Wings. The only drink is Bush, not Bush Light, just Bush. We pray all of this in your name, God of the algorithms, Lord Zuck, our Lord and Savior. There we go, guys. We did it. We got there and we prayed. Let's watch some more of this shit show.
It's good.
It is good.
Yeah,
I agree.
know.
It's good. It just I could see your point though about corporate culture. When do you think that?
When have you had a job, Joe
Rogan?
Rogan?
Was that a slow shift? Because I think it used to be very masculine, and I think it was kind of hyper aggressive.
These are dudes that watch Mad Men and are just like, see, that was good. When the whole point of Mad Men, and it was bad, and it was destroying those men's souls, and they were all empty shells. That's the point of the show. This is the point of the show. You're not supposed to want to be Don Draper. You're not supposed to want to be like him. You know?
One point.
No, and part of the intent on all these things, I think, is good, right? I do think that if you're a woman going into a company, it probably feels like it's too masculine. It's like there isn't enough of the kind of the energy that you may naturally have, and it probably feels like there are all these things that are set up that are biased against you.
In his mind, he's just like, if you're a woman and you get a job, you're probably like, yeah, there's not a Sex in the City thematic, you know? There's not potpourri in the bathrooms. What does this guy know? Imagine just being this guy's wife and daughters. That sucks.
That's not good either, because you want.
Then again, one day my daughter might go back, if YouTube still exists, and watch a bunch of this and just be like, I wish I was never born. So who knows?
You want women to be able to succeed and like have companies that can unlock all the value from having great people, no matter what their background or gender. But I think these things can always go a little far, and I think it's one thing.
Yeah, we've gone too far. We've gone just way too far, guys. Like, guys, we've done it's like we got a little more progressive in the corporate workplace for 10 years, guys. It's been 10 years, maybe less. You know what I mean? Like, women still get paid less. There's still a gender pay gap. There's definitely still a racial pay gap. And these guys are like, you know what? For 15 minutes, we weren't domineering medieval forces. We got to run it back. This has been too much.
To say we want to be kind of welcoming and make a good environment for everyone. And I think it's another to basically say that masculinity is bad. And I
mean this very genuinely. Has anyone ever had a job where they told you masculinity is bad? Where you had a job? Yeah, I mean, Katie Coop in the chat says, who is preventing these men from being masculine? In what world? Has anyone had that? I'm really trying to think. I've worked in a lot of different jobs, I don't think I've ever had a job that was you're not allowed to be a dude. I've had jobs that are don't do sexual harassment. I've had jobs that are hey, we just kind of don't do casual homophobia in the office. Great. It sounds good. I just wonder what job. So someone said yes. Okay, I'm curious, and I mean this genuinely. If people have had work experiences where you felt you have had some of your yeah, Barry, I believe you. I mean I'm definitely not opposed to the idea that could happen. I'm definitely opposed to the idea that it's a large scale thing. I do fundamentally not believe that one of the main problems right now with corporate culture. Whoa, Barry said, believe it or not, military. That's interesting because you would think the military is where they're just men, manly, do 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 do. Yeah, I just, and it's always funny too, and this is more, I guess, a critique of Joe Rogan and some of the people on his show. Whenever comedians talk about things in society, these are people that haven't had jobs in years. When do you think the last time it was Joe Rogan had a job? A job. You know what I mean? This guy was a regular on a TV show when you made a lot of money being on in the early 90s. He then did announcing for MMA while doing stand-up and then started a podcast. This guy's had a real job, and that's sick. That's the dream right there. I'm not even hating on him for that. Whoa. Barry got the masculinity taken out in the Air Force. That's really interesting. Let's see. Ann Porgan says, I've had work experiences within education that have made me feel a tiny iota of what more marginalized demographics feel like in all aspects of their life. It made me more empathetic, not less. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that Porkins gets to here is I have had moments before where I, let's say in a work training or something like that, have had to come to grips with the fact that behaviors that I took for granted as normal were maybe things that made other people feel bad, or maybe were behaviors that were privileges that I didn't realize they were privileges. And I get that in the moment, sometimes when we feel bad, we lash out, dogs bark not because they're mean, they bark because they're scared. And I think sometimes, I know I sound like a third-rate therapist right now, but I do think that sometimes we can be those dogs. But that doesn't mean that feeling of that bad feeling can't be indicative of something good. Let's watch Zuck some more. This is my guy.
I just think we come culturally to that part of the kind of the spectrum where it's all okay, masculinity is toxic. We have to get rid of it completely.
Again, they make things up. Everyone on this culture war side does this, and they do this with political ideas, cultural ideas, social ideas. No one has ever said masculinity is toxic. People have talked about toxic masculinity. I talk about it a lot. For example, and this is something I've confessed to you guys before, sometimes I have a random desire to get in fights, or someone bumps into me or looks at me the weird way, and I construct these weird narratives in my head where I'm I gotta fight this guy. That's toxic masculinity, right? It's an emotional impulse to aggressive, violent, and for lack of a better term, unchill behavior, right? But let's say if my masculinity is expressed via like, I don't know, I like hiking and going on long hikes with my buddies makes me feel like I'm a wild man. Or for me, like, I don't know, I like cooking and grilling. Maybe I express my masculinity that way. I like drinking beer with the fellas. That's not toxic. You know, there's behaviors that we think of as stereotypically masculine, but when people have used the term toxic masculinity, they're describing a certain thing. Like, for example, toxic masculinity, like a work culture where men are allowed to comment on women's appearances. That's toxic. It's not good. You know, romantic, sexual, and dating behaviors where men get to be domineering and verbally and physically abusive to women with no consequences. Toxic masculinity. That's what people have complained about. But they do this thing where they take words and they flip them around and they construct them to make themselves the victims. It's very, very weird.
It's like, no, like it's both of these things are good, right? It's like you want like feminine energy, you want masculine energy. Like I think that's like you're going to have parts of society that have more of one or the other. I think that's all good. But I do think the corporate culture sort of
you might be
swung
right.
towards being this somewhat more neutered thing. And I didn't really feel that until I got involved in martial arts, which I think is still a much more masculine culture. And
people that get into things late in life are so annoying. Here's what I mean by that. Like, when someone converts to religion in their 40s, they're so annoying. Like, I've known some people, and I've talked about this, people that like convert to Catholicism as adults, they're the worst, and they're all these like proto-fascist because they're like, everything in the book is absolutely 100% true, and this is real, and nothing else is real. Where you grow up with the thing, and you learn to kind of dialectically navigate, like, there's some good stuff, there's some bad stuff, we take this seriously, that less seriously, there's some wiggle room here, yada, yada. But like, you know, it's like the guy got a hobby late in life and is using that hobby as his frame of reference for the whole of reality. Like, the whole world doesn't have to be your dojo. Oh my God, you know who he is, guys? You know who he is? He's Dwight Schrute. This is literally an ongoing thematic in The Office that Dwight Schrute, weird kind of incel-y nerd guy, can't disassociate from his dojo and his reality, which leads him to acting in ways that are insane and problematic in the workplace. And wanting to have duels and fights and stuff like that. There's the famous episode where Dwight and Michael have to fight at the dojo. That's who this is.
So, and not that it doesn't try to be inclusive in its own way, but I think that there's just a lot more of that energy there. And I just kind of realized it's like, oh, this is
that's
like,
how you become successful at martial arts. You have to be at least somewhat aggressive.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, there are these things. There are like a few of these things.
Like, martial arts, like, isn't that important or serious? It's like cool. If that's the thing you want to do, that's super cool. But it doesn't have to be the frame of reference or our window to the world.
Throughout your life where you have an experience and you're like, where has this been my whole life? And it just like,
Yeah.
it just turned on like a part of my brain that I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't judge that experience. I became a deadhead in my late 30s, and my enjoyment of the music of the Grateful Dead and their culture has probably been the most important thing in my life in the past 6 years. But it didn't make me rethink my fundamental ethics and values, and I don't think that the whole world needs to be like a Dead show. Although, if I can make the whole world like a Dead show or the whole world like a dojo, we're at a Dead show, kids.
Like, this was a piece of the puzzle that should have been there, and I'm glad it now is.
I felt that way when I started hunting.
Oh yeah, hunting too.
Yeah, same kind of thing. You've done a lot of.
I felt that way when I started. Cool, like, you shoot an animal. Like, awesome. I bet if the animal had a gun, it would shoot you too.
that as well.
Yeah, well, so I mean, we have this ranch out in Kauai, and
Oh, you do? You have your own ranch in Hawaii? Cool, man. I really care about the way that you felt struggled and oppressed. Like, this is the thing too, man. We're listening to these people that own half of the country and have their own ranch in Hawaii and are worth billions of dollars. Like, they don't know anything
there's
about the real
invasive
world.
pigs, and on our ranch we have there's a lot of albatross. I don't know if they're endangered or just threatened. And then there's the Hawaiian state bird, the nene goose, is that's I think endangered or at least was until recently. And like most of them in the world live in a small stretch, or at least most of them on Kauai live in a small stretch that includes our ranch. So
Talking
you
about
constantly
birds.
have these pigs that are just like multiply so quickly. And
Sick
you basically have to
neocolonialism
apply
flex.
pressure
Nice
to the
30,
population,
by the
or
way.
else they just get overrun and threaten the birds and the other wildlife. And
Red Shipley say, go 5 minutes without saying something petty, impossible. I'm kind of a petty person. I guess the only thing I would say to that is I'm aware of it, at least. You know, I'm aware of it.
so
But it's not insulting someone to say that they're a billionaire. What are you, Elon Musk's mom, who goes on news and is like, I like apartheid and billionaire is a bad word, as a really bad South African.
And what I basically explained to my daughters, who I also want to learn how to do this, because I just feel like it's like, look, we have this land, we take care of it.
We have this land. We've inherited this land. This is our land. Our people have lived on this land for generations.
Just like you mow the grass, we need to make sure that these populations are in check. It's part of what we do as like the stewards of this.
The stewards of this? Okay, HTML John Locke.
And we've got to do it. And then if
You're not a steward of the land. You're a billionaire who bought a bunch of land on a place that you're not from and have increasingly took land from indigenous people. Like, you're not stewards.
if you have to kill something, then you should, obviously treat it with respect and, use
makes his daughter kill pigs?
to make food and
That's so weird.
And kind of celebrate in that way. But it's a culture that I think it's just an important thing for kids to grow up understanding, like the circle of life, right? So,
Oh, so the Lion King. So an Elton John song from the original motion picture soundtrack to the Lion King is how we must raise our kids. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Shout out to any of you that own a Hawaii plantation. Master of Infinity, you're right. I did insult his look. And listen, I'll take it. If you say, Michael, it's inconsistent with some of your values that you would make fun of someone for the way they dress, you're not wrong. You know what I mean? I'm a big enough alpha man to acknowledge that you're not wrong, but I'm also not going to not do that because I can accept that contradictions and paradoxes exist. That's where I'm at. Cthulhu says I'm a bit too heated. Okay. We'll watch another second and we'll get unheated and everything's going to be okay.
teaching the kids all of, what is kind of, how you'd run around.
Is there any other random point of this you want to look at really quick, Henry? Only if you had some random time code in mind.
The 20-minute mark or the 55-minute mark, I want to say.
Let's go to 55. See if I can get there precisely. Oops, I clicked
to
one thing.
millions of votes overall in the country of people that were on the fence, the people that weren't sure who they're going to vote for. If they found out the Hunter Biden laptop was real, they're like, oh, this is fucking, the family's fucking crazy. And they would have voted for Trump. That's possibly real. And if that's possibly real, that could be defined as election interference. And all that stuff scares the shit out of me. That kind of stuff scares the shit out of me when the government gets involved in what could be termed election interference, but through some weird loophole, it's legal. Whereas some
I don't think
interference-
that the pushing for social media companies to censor stuff was legal. I mean, it's like that's.
Right.
I mean, there's all this stuff about what, people talk about the First Amendment and okay, these tech platforms should offer free speech like the First Amendment. It's that I think is a philosophical principle. The First Amendment doesn't apply to companies in our content moderation. It's more of an American ethos about how we think that best dialogue is carried out. But the First Amendment does apply to the government. That's like the whole point, right? Is the government is not allowed to censor this stuff. So at some level,
I don't think the First Amendment says that the government can't censor businesses.
I do think that.
But what do I know? I haven't even seen
people
Hamilton.
In the administration calling up the guys on our team and yelling at them and cursing and threatening repercussions if we don't take down things that are true is like, it's pretty bad.
It sounds illegal. I
Pretty
would love
bad.
to hear it. I wish somebody recorded those conversations.
Well, I mean,
those would be
again, it's
great to listen to. Somebody could animate them, maybe Polytunes.
A lot of the material is public. I mean, Jim Jordan led this whole investigation in Congress. I mean, it was basically, I think about this as like, what Elon did on the Twitter files when he took over that company. I think Jim Jordan basically did that for the rest of the industry with the congressional investigation.
Listen, here's the thing, guys. People like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and others in the tech industry. I think a thing we have to remember is like they're more or less anointed by God. And they are using their platforms to make the world a better place. You know, they're using those platforms. Yes, incidentally, do they make money? Sure. Can they buy a plantation with that money? Whatever, you know. Do they have their daughter sort of like use a bolt gun to take the life out of a pig? Like she's the bad guy from No Country for Old Men? Maybe. But at the end of the day, they are changing the world for the better. And it's the role of the government to ease restrictions on the machinations of the free market so that innovation can happen. Because when we lift back the reins of the market, you know, like amazing things could happen. Because I think when we look at, you know, Wall Street, you know, Wall Street, how many letters is street? STREET, 6. How many letters is Christ? CHRIST. Who knows? You know, it could just be a coincidence. But I think that, you know, it's time for a lot of us to just step back and let these guys, you know, lead us to the promised land. You know, lead us to the future. And I think it's cool, to be honest. I think it's cool, to be honest, for these to be our heroes. You know? Now I think it's good people to look up to. I don't think you should look up to scholars, poets, athletes, musicians, you know, revolutionaries. You know, what am I going to do? Look up to John Brown? He killed people. I'm going to look up to Mark Zuckerberg. It seems like Mav says I said something dumb. You know what? I probably did. I don't think I meant to quote Jim Jordan, but and you know, I don't understand how the Constitution works. No one does. No one understands how the Constitution works. But guys, you know, the main gist here is we just wanted to watch in which the people that are in charge of many aspects of our modern life are doing sus stuff. You know, maybe it's good. Maybe he's great. I did want to shout out people that I like. Our friends at Yes Please Coffee. I just got this new one. It's called G Status. It's very masculine because masculine people call each other my G and stuff like that. Yes Please Coffee is our official coffee partner. You get 20% off coffee if you want it. I know a lot of people in our community are experiences. So if you want to, please do get some of it. I think you would like it very much. I've been drinking so much coffee recently. I think it's maybe correlated with wintertime depression, ecological disaster, just feeling like I want to drink more coffee. So, you know, I would check it out if you want. I mentioned earlier, our friends at Wildgrain. You get Wildgrain too and have both. I don't care. I just want you to live your life. And just to be clear about the plantation thing for Daemon Targaryen, I love your work as a part of the Targaryen dynasty. Mark Zuckerberg he bought a plantation in Hawaii and he talks about it. So, you know, and I do think all these people are just trying to make money. You know, it's just money. It's just all money. People just want to make money. You know, so there you go. Mav said that Zuck quoting the First Amendment being designed to regulate government interference, free speech, and not individual or corporate is correct. There you go. I'm not saying he can't be right sometimes. So I guess the takeaway here is that everyone should go on Facebook and just say the most foul things you can think of and see if it works. You know, see if you can get away with saying the most foul stuff possible. I'm just kidding. Reminder, you can email us at wisecracklive666@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We like hearing from you. Henry, do you have any closing thoughts on any of this?
No, not really. I think we've kind of covered the ground looking at the video and just letting you massage through it.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it does
go ahead.
speak to me when later in the interview he's talking about like the technologies they're working on. A lot of it is just like the metaverse and like getting people into like an augmented reality and pitching the product, and it's just like for our I don't know, for our aspirational like innovators and like captains of industry, it just strikes me as a very small or very I don't know. It lacks the romance or scope of somebody I would imagine wanted to like overhaul society. There's no considerations of like useful ways of like renovating for the future. It's how we're going to put you in the meta quest helmet, and we're gonna have an augmented reality blending in with the real world. And I don't know. It's just
Yeah, well, and that's
it's such a
yeah.
vacuous vision of the future for someone we're supposed to be regarding as like a visionary, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. There's a hollowness to it.
Yeah, because we're past the point, right? Like that, like Meta is not making our lives better. Meta is not bringing people together. You know, they're making their weird little AI bots who are like, I'm a sassy black woman who developed it, 10 white guys. But like, you know, X isn't making our life better. It's not giving us access to new information. It's not expanding our minds. It's not bridging cultural divides, you know? And I think that there's this like mist of that narrative that Silicon Valley people still want us to believe. But really, all that's doing is serving as a smokescreen so they can continue to advocate for more deregulation and more power as we push towards like a sort of techno feudalism, which we talked about last week. So, you know, I think that that's one thing. And then I guess, you know, a lot of the stuff focused, just to wrap up a couple things we talked about. Again, I think we can all maybe think about, and I'll use the thing we said was going to be our framework this year on the streams, which is like the teleology of something. And I think we just have to ask ourselves then, what is the end game of the free expression thing, right? What is the ultimate end game of a platform saying you're allowed to say heinous stuff, you're allowed to say something racist, you're allowed to say something pretty harmful about a queer person? Like, what is the end result there? Is that furthering dialogue? Is it getting us closer to understanding each other? Is it challenging some sort of like ancient presuppositions that are damaging? Like, what is it doing in that sense? And in the same way, I would say like this obsession with masculinity, like what is the end game there? Is the end game that like aggressive dudes need more power? Because like, I don't know, all of human history, everything up until this point was that. Is it going good? I don't know. But just something to think about. Fit said, do you have a take on masculinity in modern times? Just wondering what your thoughts are on increased suicide rates and whether you agree there's a sense of disenfranchisement. And yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing. You know what sucks? Elements of traditional masculinity, which tell men, like, A, it's, you know, oh, bro, it's like, bro, it's gay to cry or express your emotions or whatever. Like, that's really bad. It's bad that masculinity, and this is something I've like dealt with in my life, and it's something I'm still dealing with. I come from a long line of men who push it all down inside and don't say how they feel. They push it. They push it. You know, I saw my dad cry once in my entire life. It's not good. You know, those elements of what it means to be a man, it means to be self-sufficient, independent, non-emotional, logical, rational, that's led to things like increased suicide rates and loneliness. And I think that's bad. And I think like you can be a dude and you can be into dude stuff. And you can also reach out to a friend when you're feeling depressed, you know? So I don't know. That's like my kind of take there. Yeah, someone said Irish Catholic way. Dog for one as a cat. It's cheaper for a platform to let people say super messed up things than it is to pay people to moderate it. Yep. Logan Reese watched the Iron Claw, and the message of that movie is that is always good. If you can get through the end of that movie without bawling and crying, I don't think that you exist. Like, we'll be your brother's dad. Holy shit. But yeah, Dapper Cat said like Irish Catholic way, and it's sort of like, yeah, like, is it good that historical masculinity and the cultural line that I come from is about using humor to deflect from real emotions, pushing down things you feel, and then using like alcohol as a coping mechanism, I don't know. I don't think it's good. So I think that there's ways to it. Like, no one take away from any of this that we don't think like, if you want to do like martial arts or lift or play football or box or listen to speed metal, rad. Especially if you do it with other people and it makes you a part of a community. But if you feel like a sort of aggressive masculinity is fundamental to what it means to be like a good person, if you feel like your workplace needs to have aggressive masculinity to be successful, I think that's really silly. And I also think, again, like, dudes are fine and here's what I mean by dudes are fine. Dudes are not fine in so much as there's mental health crises that are affecting men, specifically young men. That's very real. What I mean is there are spaces in society and a freedom of expression and existence for men that a lot of people historically have not had. Let's see. Logan Reed says, yes, go to hardcore shows. Okay, so everyone go to hardcore shows.
Yeah.
Email us if you have more thoughts. Leave comments if you want. Someone said, are you a bad enough dude to express yourself without being self-destructive? That's real badass.
Yeah.
If you can express yourself without being self-destructive. And like, listen, if anyone's like watching this, like dudes especially, like I find it really hard. I am 40 years old. I'm still like learning to not be toxic and learning to not like do the pressing the emotion down sort of thing. So I totally get it, and I know that it's hard, but I just think if you're looking for a positive dude role model, it's not Mark Zuckerberg. Okay? It's not. It's Benjamin Netanyahu. That's been the show. This has been Wisecrack's Case of the Mondays. It's Monday, January 13th. I've been your host, Michael Burns. I'm here with producer Henry on the ones, the twos, the threes, and the fours. Come back Wednesday, because unless there's massive power outages again and the fires start back up, we're going to stream again there. Thanks for hanging out. And if I seem a little bit exhausted or on edge, it's because I am. It's been a really exhausting week of stuff here, and I've not even had to deal with the worst of it. If you have the resources and can help out with what's going on in LA, please feel free to do that. Like the stream on your way out if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.